In this video, we are going to create a countdown timer. So this is our countdown timer. It got a start countdown and also input field. So this is kind of the value in second. So let's say we want to count down till 5 seconds. We can either press enter or click the start button in here, and this is going to show counting down. And when the countdown finish, it just shows countdown completed. Okay, so let's get started with it. I got the starter file. Now let's create the markup, and this is going to be pretty simple. Let's create a div with the class of card because this kind of looks like a card. Now inside it we are going to create a div. So this is actually for the Alpine.js. We are going to use some directive on it to show and hide things. So inside it I'm going to create a form. I'm just going to use the form because if we use the form, we can press enter to submit the form. Okay, otherwise we need to add a event listener for it, like on key press, key down. So we don't need to do that. That will make things complicated. Now inside the form, let's create a label. And it is going to for the number. Actually we don't need to complete the for. So the label is a start countdown. This is just a simple text. After that let's put the input tag, and the input type is going to be number because this is the second we are going to count down. So this is a number. We can also, let's just remove it, and we can also give it a name, right? Number, and we can use it as a for number. Okay, this is totally unnecessary. We don't need to do that. Now let's set a placeholder, maybe 20 seconds. Okay, we got an input field, and this is kind of required, otherwise the form should not be submitted. So we are going to use the required attribute in here. Now they are in the same line. We can just use an HR tag to put it at the next line. Also we can use the CSS if you want to. Now after the input field, we can use the button, which is going to be the submit button. So I'm just going to use the shortcut for emit by typing the button :submit. This is going to type out as button type submit. It should be a start. Okay, fine. Now this is our form, and this is the div. So after the div, let's create another div, and inside it div we are going to use the xif. So if you want to use xif, it is better if we use the template. So inside the template, let's create a div. Inside the div, let's use the h4 tag. I have created this div because we are going to put multiple items in here, like h4 should be counting down, then maybe a paragraph with the countdown. So like this should be the countdown text. Let's save. Now we cannot see it because by default the temp tailwind will hide the template. Okay, I just commented out the template tag, and now we can see it. So after designing it, we are going to make it again visible or uncommented. So let's create another template in here, but again we need to comment this out, otherwise we cannot style it. So let's just use an h4 tag and counting down, countdown completed. Okay, so I have used the div here because we got two different type of elements, like the counting down and the paragraph tag. We cannot use different elements inside a template, otherwise we are going to wrap it up by using a div. Okay, In this case here we have not used any div because there is only one element in here, so we don't need to use a wrapper. Like in this case we have used the wrapper. Okay, the markup is completed. Now let's move on to the style.css and style it. I have added the basic stylings, the reset, font family, and also to make it center I have also added the display flex and also a background color with the body. Now let's target the card here and give this a background color of white to F. After that let's give it a specific weight like 400 pixels. Also let's add a padding so that there is some gap around it, so let's use 40 pixel. Also to make the corners rounded I am going to use the border radius to like 10 pixels. I'm also going to use a box shadow, so kind of it looks like that it pops out from the background. So let's use 10 pixels, 48 pixels. I have actually got the value from Figma. I have actually designed it before in Figma. So we are going to use black box shadow and with the opacity of 0.2, that means 20%. Now we got a nice subtle background shadow. Okay, now let's target the form label, which is the start countdown text. So form label. Okay, let's increase the font size to 24 pixels. Also let's make it block bold by using font weight 600. Let's also make it display inline block. Okay, it looks better, but I want it at the center. So what we can do is we can use the text align with the card, so everything in here will be at the center. So after the label, let's target the input, this one and this start button. So form input, I'm just going to add a padding like 13 pixels. Let's make the display block, otherwise they are in the same line and we don't want that. Now display is block, so let's give it a weight of 100%, because as you can see this is just taking this much and I want it to be at the whole weight except the padding. But I want the same thing with the start button as well, so I'm just going to target that too. Okay, now it got the default border all around it. So what we can do is we can add a border, our own border, like 2 pixel solid RGBA. So we are just going to use the grayish color on 85, on 85, on 85, and for the opacity here let's give it 0.4, which is 40%. It looks fine, but we can also use a border radius to make the corners rounded. And now let's add some padding here, actually margin. So we are going to target the button and let's give this a margin top of 20 pixels. It will create some gap with the input field. Now after that let's make the text uppercase. Okay, it looks better. Now let's make the font weight bold by giving it a 600 value, and also let's give it a background color of blue. But now we are going to create the color white, otherwise we cannot see it. Okay, but whenever we are going to hover on that, we want it to be the hand icon, so the cursor should be pointer. Okay, now it looks better. Now let's add a hover effect on the button. So let's target it with the hover, and I just want to change the background color to maybe 00 on 26. Let's save. It is a little bit darker than that and it looks fine. We are also going to add a transition. to make it smooth. So it should be only applied on the background color. Maybe 0.4 second is, it's too much slow. I'm just going to use 0.3 second. Okay, this is much better. Now I think the text here got H4 tags, so we are just going to target the H4 and increase the font size to maybe 24 pixels, because the heading tags already got the font weight of bold, so they are actually quite good. Now we have also added a insert tag in here. This is this line. It's actually kind of congested with the input field, so we cannot see it separately. What we can do is we can target the HR and give it a margin of we only need the margin and top and bottom, like 30 pixels. We can give the second value 0, which is for the left and right. We cannot see anything. There is no difference, right? Because there's the margin, right? We don't on that, we just on the margin, and now we can see the line in here, which is a divider. Now everything is fine. I want this text to be large, so let's target the paragraph tag with the class of countdown. I think I have given this the class name of countdown. Okay, this is the class. Now let's increase the font size to much bigger, like on 6 pixels. Okay, it is kind of good. Now let's also add some padding to get some gap. I just only on the padding at the top and bottom, like 20 pixels. Left and right should be 0. Okay, it looks fine, because we are going to hide most of the things. So the markup is complete. Now we can move on to the index.html, sorry, in this case the countdown.html, and apply our Alpine.js on it. So in this case, the component is going to be the div with the class of card. So let's apply xdata on it. So at first I am going to, let's move into the second line, because this is not very simple. We need 2 different type of object items here. So let's use is active false, and we can also create another one, count down, and let's make it false. So why I have created this is, when the countdown is going to be true, something here should be hidden, and when this is active, that means when the countdown is going on, some element should be hidden. So that's why. So I'm just going to display it to you. So let's make the templates visible. Now we can just uncomment it by Ctrl / in Windows. Now they are invisible. So we are going to use the xif. But before getting into that, so this countdown completed, this entire thing should be only displayed if the is active is true. Okay, so when the countdown is running on, then the counting down, the countdown text, the countdown completed should be displayed. This, not this one, but this two. So we are going to target this div and use the x show in here, and it should be equal to the is active. So when the countdown is running, we are going to make the value of is active true, then it is going to show. So if we change it from here, nothing happens. That's only because the template tags here won't let it display itself because of the Alpine. Now if we use the condition of xif, which is the xif directory of Alpine, and let's target the countdown, we are going to display this template, like counting down and the countdown, until the countdown hits 0, right? So if it is more than 0, then only it should be displayed, this entire template. So let's save, and nothing, because the countdown here is false. In JavaScript, every positive value is true and the 0 and the negative value is considered as false. So that means the value here is 0 or minus. So if we just use 0 here, nothing will happen. If we use any minus value, nothing will happen. But if it is true, we can either use true here and it displays. Okay. If we use any positive value like 2 or on, it is going to be displayed, because in that case this is going to be true. Okay. So this template here, and this template content should be displayed until the countdown is 0, and when the countdown is 0, only then it should show itself. Okay. So when the countdown is completed, that means the countdown is equal to 0. Countdown equal to 0, then it should be displayed. Now we can make it 0 to show the countdown completed, but this is kind of false, so I'm just going to apply false in here. Let's also make the is active false, because the countdown is not initiated yet. We are going to add a event listener on the input field. So whenever we are going to click it or press the enter, that's like submitting the form, right? Then the is active should be true, right? So let's do that. We are going to add the event listener with the form here. The event here will be submit, so the form should be submitted. So if we type 3 and press enter, it kind of refresh, because that's what the form do. On submit, the page is going to refresh and we don't want it, right? So we are going to prevent the default action of the form. So we can actually use a modifier .prevent of Alpine.js to make it happen. So the event here is submit, and we are going to use the x_on directive also. As you can already know, we can use the @ as a short form of x_on. Then the event is submit. We are going to use .prevent here to stop the refreshing. Now as you can see, if we either press enter or click the start icon, this is not going to refresh, because we have used the prevent modifier in here. Okay, now how to want. At first we want the is active to be true, so let's target that is active is going to be true. What else? Okay, let's put it to the different line, because this is kind of congested in here. Okay, after that let's target the countdown in here. So we are going to give some value with the countdown. Now for that reason we need the value from this input field. How we can do that? Well, Alpine.js has a directive for that, which is xref or reference. This is the easiest way to get a DOM element from HTML. You can get whatever you want. In that case, we need the value of this input field. If you know vanilla JavaScript, then you know that in order to get the value from this input element, we need to use some kind of query selector, like query selector or get element by ID or get element by class name dot value. So with Alpine.js, we can do it pretty easily by using the xref. So we are going to give this input field a xref, which is the short form for reference. We can give it whatever name you want, like countdown input. So we are going to grab this by using xref and grab the value from it. So in that case, the countdown value should be So in order to get the value from this xref, we are going to use the Alpine.js magic element, the refs. Okay, so $refs, so it will grab the input element. I'm actually going to show this to you. So let's console .log here, the refs which will grab this element. So dot this, let's save and inspect it and open the console. So if we type anything and submit the form, we can get the element. So we can grab the value from here by just typing dot and value. Let's put anything and start. So we got the value from here by using the refs. So that is the basic principle of here. I'm just going to cut it, delete the console.log. Now we are going to get this value to this countdown. So count, it should be camel case. Okay, countdown is equal to the value we have inputted in here. So now we are going to use the set interval. Okay, now we can see this is going to count, this is going to be displayed because the value of the countdown is positive. So this kind of turns true and it is going to be displayed. Now we are going to use set interval to create the countdown. This is basic JavaScript, nothing to do with the Alpine.js. So let's target the window dot set interval. So let's use an arrow function in here, and we are going to use an if statement. So if countdown is more than 0, so if we apply any negative value, the form should not work. But if it is positive, then if it is more than 0, then we are going to create the countdown. So if it is more than 0, we are going to reduce the value of the countdown. So the countdown should be countdown -1. So it is going to reduce it by 1, and for the set interval we also need to add a interval which is in the millisecond. Okay, sorry, I have missed a bracket in here. Okay, after that let's just put a comma and put the value in millisecond. We are going to create the countdown based on second, and on second means 1000 milliseconds, so the value should be on 1000. Now it should work. Let's type 5, press enter or click here. It is okay, we actually need to modify it as well. I haven't done it yet, but the countdown finished and it shows that countdown is completed. Okay, now this is our countdown text. We can actually use the xtext directive of Alpine.js to dynamically output this. So let's use the xtext, and it should be the value of the countdown. Let's save and let's try again, and it is going to be counting down. So when the countdown is active, like is active is true when the form is submitted, right? So when the form is submitted, we don't want to display the start countdown or the input field, right? So we are going to hide the enter form. Actually we are going to hide the enter div in here, like the start button, the input field, start countdown text, everything should be hidden when the countdown is going on. So we can actually use the xshow directive, and when the is active is true, it should be hidden, right? So we can just use exclamatory, that means not is active. That means whenever the is active is going to be true, this will return as false, and this will be hidden. Let's save, create a countdown, and the button start countdown text is hidden, only the countdown completed. So after finishing of the countdown, the is active is still true, that's why it is going to show up, but the first template is going to be hidden, because in that case the countdown is not actually more than 0. That means it will return false and it will be hidden, but this will be displayed because in that case the countdown will be equal to 0. Okay, I think you have understand the concept perfectly, but if you don't, please let me know. I will try my best to make sure you understand the things. This is just a second part. You can also create a minute countdown, but in that case you just need to put the value of a minute in millisecond. So you just need to multiply it by 60, that means 60,000. Now it should be at a minute start, and this is going to take a minute. We don't have enough time for that. So this is our project. This is pretty simple and basic, yet there are lots of Alpine components is being used here, directives and other elements like this magic element refs. Okay, so this is it, and see you in the next video.